Okay, this next book I'm about to pick up though, I don't think you guys are ready. I'm just like a little agitated right now. Oh my god. This is about to be the hottest take I have ever had. Hi everyone, it's Mia. Welcome to today's video. We are starting some new series in this reading vlog. It's finally time. This video is also sponsored by Surfshark, but we'll talk more about them in a bit. As you guys know from my last reading vlog, I've kind of like almost exhausted the active series I'm in the middle of that I could continue. So we are at that exciting time in our lives where I can actually start a bunch of new series. And I'm so excited because I've had so many first books of series on my TBR for so long, and I've wanted to start them for so long, and the time has finally come where I can do so. So we're just gonna spend the week diving into some new series, new to me I should say, try a whole bunch of new authors out, and to see if those series are worth continuing for me. So just getting straight into it, I have my first book that we're gonna start with in this reading vlog. I'm really excited about this one. You guys know I've been wanting to dive into this for a while, but it's actually the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. So this one's The Last Wish. The reading order for this one was a little bit confusing for me because there is a chronological order of the series, of course, but there are also, I think, 2 novellas or maybe even more that you're supposed to read before you dive into like actual book 1. But I've had some advice, I've done some research, and the person working at the bookstore when I picked this up actually told me that this one is a good one to start with. So I'm gonna begin with this one, but this is technically like a prequel. I've been really curious to dive into this one because I did play The Witcher 3, the video game, and it was so much fun. I really enjoyed the like vastness of the fantasy world in the game, and I just want to learn more about the lore because I feel like even while playing the game, I was like, there is so much going on. I feel like there's so much lore that I don't know, so I want to see the source material. I want to see all the lore. I want to learn everything. I want to get all of the world building, and I want to know what the main story is, because even in the game, there were a couple of like different alternate endings and different paths you could take. So I'm like, I want to know which version of the story is the most canon accurate, but I'm just really curious. These books are also actually written originally in Polish, I'm pretty sure, and then translated to English. So I always find it really interesting reading a book that's been translated because a lot of the time the writing style actually feels different than books that were primarily written in English, just because in different languages and coming from different cultures, there are just different ways to get certain points across. And I find with translated works, you can really see that in the writing style. So I'm really curious to see what the writing in this is going to be like. But yeah, this is the first series that we're going to dive into and start this week. So let's just get into it. I'm really excited. I got up to just about 40 pages yesterday. Didn't actually have that much time to read, but I have nibbled just enough in this book to kind of tell you more about what it actually is about. Essentially, what this seems like is that it's going to be a series of short stories where our main character, Geralt, who is a witcher, goes about fulfilling a bunch of different witcher contracts. So we get a lot of world building, a lot of just like learning about Geralt and how witchers work, essentially. So witchers, if you don't know, they're basically these like hunters that have been trained from when they were a kid, and with some magical enhancements, they have just grown up to be these very powerful, enhanced humans, kind of, that are really good at killing beasts. And so these witchers basically work as freelancers, and they take contracts from people who hire them to slay monsters. So in this prequel, we just follow Geralt, who is a witcher, as he does these contracts. So far, I would say this does feel quite similar to the game in terms of the vibe. So I guess the game was a pretty like decent adaptation of the feeling of these books. Geralt as a character definitely feels consistent. He's kind of this like detached feeling character who does not offer a lot of words. Like when he wants to get a point across to someone, he will do so in the least amount of words possible, and that is holding true to like the book and the game, and I'm pretty sure holds true to the Netflix TV adaptation as well. Although I will say, I think I've mentioned this, but in the past I only managed to watch 2 episodes of the Netflix adaptation, and for some reason I just never continued after that. But that is actually something that I've been thinking that like I might want to dabble into while I'm reading this series and like getting more into the world. I feel like I'll have to revisit the TV show again. But while we're on the topic of watching adaptations adaptations of our favorite books, I do want to quickly talk about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Surfshark, because first of all, Surfshark might actually be able to help you connect to some of these streaming platforms to access these adaptations. And second of all, you can do this while also keeping your internet activity secure. So Surfshark VPN is essentially a cybersecurity company that can help you virtually travel the world essentially. So basically, this can help you connect to websites and streaming platforms that you might not normally be able to connect to, depending on where you are in the world. It can also help you avoid price discrimination depending on your location, and yeah, just unblock streaming services that might not be available to you. And then also there is a privacy and security side to it as well. So Surfshark can also help you stay safe while accessing the internet over Wi-Fi. So if you're traveling and you're reliant on public Wi-Fi, you can keep your browsing activity safe, including like logging into your online banking account and anything else. The benefits are also great. So Surfshark does offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try out the service, see if you like it with no risk. And they also have 24/7 customer service, which is always amazing. So if you do want to check out Surfshark, go to surfshark.com/JamieFalk, or you can use my code JamieFalk. This will actually get you 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. So thank you to Surfshark again for sponsoring this video and helping all of our internet streaming needs. I do have some initial thoughts on writing style here, but I want to fully form my opinions before getting them across to you. So I'm just going to read a little bit more, get a little bit more of a grasp of what's going on, and then I'll update you about what I think about the reading style, because there are some things happening. Okay, we need to have a little chat. Now that I've read the first 2 short stories, I'm around page 80 now, there are many things in this book that I just have really mixed opinions on right now. So we can start with the good, I guess. So I am enjoying the interesting writing style in this. It does feel very different than other books I read, and again, I'm suspecting that has something to do with the fact that the source material is Polish and it's been translated. It feels very weird, like the cadence of everything, the sentence structure, things are just not told in a traditional way that you expect stories to be told when they're written in English. So there's just something, yeah, interesting about the cadence of how the sentences are formed. And there is something almost like poetic about the writing. It's very descriptive. And also there is a little bit of like dark humor in it. So that's all good. And I do think overall the setups of these short stories, the little Witcher contracts, are really interesting. I like the setups of them. They feel very like mythical, very folklore, and I'm enjoying that side of it. But then we get to the bad, okay? First of all, before we dive into something that is kind of making me a little bit mad about this book, I will just say, while the writing in this is descriptive, I feel like there are certain things that are happening in the magic that aren't being explained properly. Maybe it's because I'm very used to reading like Brandon Sanderson books, where like when we're learning about the magic, we are learning about the magic, you know, it's very like this is how the magic works. And in this book so far, I don't know, again, if it's maybe just because it's a prequel, but Geralt, while he's trying to slay these beasts, will do these spells. And I know what the spells do because I played the game, but just from reading this book, I feel like whenever he does a spell, it's not actually directly described or explained what the spell is actually doing. You kind of get the aftermath of the spell, but you'll never be like, oh yeah, this spell puts up a shield. This spell controls people's minds. That's not actually explained in the text, and I'm finding that like kind of interesting. I'm like, I feel like if you didn't have prior knowledge with the show or the game, it would be kind of confusing trying to read this and to try and sort out like what's going on, like what are these spells doing? Why is he just like writing these symbols into the air and saying these words? I think that would be really confusing to jump into, and I thought this book was going to be a lot of world building, but it seems like we're just skipping that and just like going straight into short stories. So I'm a little iffy on that. And then, okay, getting to the part that is currently making me like honestly a little bit irritated. First of all, in the opening of this book, we start off with like, I'm gonna call it a spice scene. It was spicy. It was a very intimate moment described in some detail. I'm calling it a spice scene. And I didn't really expect this book to start it with a spice scene, although I will say the game is pretty spicy. I just didn't expect this like series of short novellas to start with that, like right at the start. But you know what? All in all, It's fine. I read a lot of fantasy and fantasy romance that has spice in it. It's not my favorite thing in the world to read, but I can overlook it as long as the story is good. But then we get into the Witcher contract parts, you know, which are supposed to be very high action, lore building, like lots of fantasy story in them. And so I have just been really shocked to see that while we are doing these Witcher contracts, female breasts keep getting highlighted in these really weird moments. In the very first short story, for example, we're basically hunting a girl that has turned into a monster, but she's basically a 14-year-old girl, but with like a monster curse placed on her, and Geralt is trying to like undo the curse. But there's this moment where he finds her and she's basically described as lying down on her back, face up, and she's not wearing any clothes, I don't think, because she's a monster. She's in monster form. But the first thing he notices are her breasts. Very specifically, he'll just be like, yeah, she's lying down there. Her breasts look like this. And I'm like, why is that something you would even notice? Why do we need to write that in the book like it's a 14-year-old girl? There are just like weird things like that keep happening, and like breasts keep getting mentioned like so often. It's kind of reminding me of like romantasy books, and this is an irk for me in romantasy books written by female authors as well, where our protagonist will continue to notice things like, oh, his abs look so good, his shoulders look so good, his chiseled jaws look so good, but in these very inopportune moments where it's like, you're not supposed to be thinking of how good he looks right now, you're just supposed to be focusing on the task at hand. Like there's a battle in front of you that's very high stakes. Can we focus on that and not focus on the chiseled jaws? Kind of a similar feeling thing with this, but like even more exaggerated and very much inappropriate because like the context is a 14-year-old girl. I'm not liking that. It's just like a shame because what is happening with some of the short stories is cool. Like again, it feels very mythological, but it's hard to look past that when there are these types of descriptions and things happening. I'm also not really loving the moral outcomes of the stories. Like I've read 2 of them so far, maybe they'll get better, but even for these first 2 that I've read, the final outcomes of the stories, I'm like, why did that guy win? Like, why are we on that guy's side? Why did we support that guy? Like, what he was doing sucked. Why are we letting that go? I feel like when I was playing the game, there's obviously a lot of morally gray moments, and in the game there were decisions that, like, you know, there were really truly despicable characters that you met along the way and who hired you, but in the game you always had the option of like, do you listen to him or do you turn against him and you kill him instead because he's terrible? And in all of those cases, while I was playing the game, I turned on the not morally good character and I killed him instead. But I feel like in this book, we are making all of the moral choices that I would not have made. Like we're making the wrong moral choices and we're supporting the wrong people. And I'm not loving it. I'm not loving that. Ugh. It's such a shame because the world is so cool. I'm really hoping the short stories get better as they go along, but so far the first 2 are making me very angry. But I'm gonna keep reading them. I don't know how many more we have actually. There was a table of contents, but I'm just gonna keep going. Each short story is about 40 pages long so far, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it gets better because I'm just like a little agitated right now. This is about to be the hottest take I have ever had, but I just finished this book and I just don't think I can give it over a 1 star. This might actually be my first 1 star of the year and my first 1 star that I've had in a really long time. I just feel so angry at this. I feel so angry right now. I'm also just really disappointed because I did go into this hoping that I would love it, obviously. Like I've had such fun experiences with the game and I do like the fantasy world, but this just like, this infuriated me. Like, what do you mean? Like, how is this so popular? I don't understand it. Someone please tell me if I read it wrong. I mean, I went on a rant previously, so you guys have already suffered through that, but I think just with some of those things that were happening, like, yes, I can understand that maybe these things were just happening in the world. You know, there are bad people in the world and our goal, our purpose is to try and fix it or like deal with it in the best way we can. But I didn't get that message from this book. And like this isn't even just me being sensitive because I have read so many books that are so horrific, you know what I mean? Like I just went through the Red Rising series. Like I know what is a good way to set up a horrible world with like racism and sexism and all of that running rampant, but done in a way where the overall takeaway of the story is, no, we don't want these things. We try and fight against these things because these things are not good. But I just, like, by the end of this book, I didn't get that. I will say, like, the end, like the second half of the book maybe got a little bit better. Like, the worst parts of this were in the beginning. So you could say, oh, we maybe got a little bit of growth, but I don't think we did. Like, we just stopped mentioning certain things. We didn't actually address a lot of the issues that happened early on in the book. It just got like slightly better, but for me, with something that starts so drastic in the beginning, that like really, really sucks at the beginning, I would just need like a huge arc, immense amount of growth by the end of the book for that to be excused, or at least the promise of it. And for me, I didn't get the promise of that by the time I got to the end of this. So I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of the values that this book in particular portrayed. And I will also say, like, in general, I don't love starting a world, like starting a series with a series of short stories. And like, I knew that's what I was signing up for going into this. And so I was expecting that, but I like wasn't expecting to hate it this much. I will say it had potential. As I mentioned, there were some cool callbacks to mythology and folklore. Yeah, I can't get behind it. I can't. It's such a shame though, because there are female characters in this Witcher world that I want to read about, like Ciri. I absolutely love Ciri as a character, and I love the idea of her arc, but now after reading this, I'm just scared. Like, I don't want to read more from this author because I'm just so offended. So that was fun. Needless to say, in this moment in time, I have decided I will not be continuing the Witcher series. Hopefully this next series that we're about to dive into works out a lot better. So I'm gonna dive into Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I feel like I just need a fun time right now. I feel like I need to laugh. I feel like I need to just like go on an adventure. And I think this book will give that to me, hopefully. So this one, I don't know if it's technically a fantasy or sci-fi. I want to say sci-fi because it's very video gamey, but it's probably one of those books that's just like on the border. It's sci-fi fantasy. But essentially we have our protagonist Carl in this book, and at the beginning the world gets crushed, and the people who have crushed the world are actually this like evil corporation that has been taking over planets to mine resources from them. And so that's happened to Earth at the beginning of this book, and when it happens, everyone who is inside gets crushed along with the buildings, but Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, actually end up being outside of a building when the crushing happens. So Carl and Princess Donut survive, and then they actually end up being sent into this like underground dungeon system that has 18 levels and is built like a video game. Carl is told that he has to traverse through all of these levels in this dungeon to survive, essentially. And all of this has been designed by that evil corporation, and all of this will also be like live streamed to an audience. And so we kind of have a little like Hunger Games situation with here, but it's very like dungeon crawler, very video game. Like the whole mechanics of how these dungeons work are very video game. Like you have HP, you have XP, you have levels, you have a bag, like an inventory, you have loot, you have achievements, like all of that fun stuff. And so Carl is now a player in this dungeon game, and Princess Donut, who came with him, is now also actually a player. I've heard some wonderful things about this book. I've also heard some wonderful things about the audiobook, and I actually did start a little bit of the audiobook. It was when I went on that book shopping trip for my birthday. We listened to just a little bit of this, to the opening of it in the car ride, because my husband was also curious about starting this one. So we listened to the first just like few chapters of this one in the car, and so far I will say like this is pretty fun. It's funny. I like the game system. I have been getting like more into video games in this past year, so I kind of know more about how the mechanics of these types of games work, and so it's just fun reading it in a book. It's a very plot-driven book. There are a lot of like inside video game jokes, I think. I'm excited to continue reading this. I'm excited to get into this physically. Hopefully this lifts up my spirits. All right, let's do a little halfway check-in. I'm pretty much at the exact halfway point in Dungeon Crawler Carl now. I did read most of this first half physically, and then I just listened to about 20 minutes of it this morning as I was working out. And I will say, like, you guys are right, the humor hits a lot more in the delivery of the audiobook. I feel like while reading it physically, I was just like, all the humor just seemed a little bit more ridiculous kind of. It's just kind of like absurd humor. It's kind of like dumb humor, I want to call it that, you know what I mean? And I feel like that type of humor definitely works more in the line delivery, like when you hear someone say it and deliver it well versus just reading it. So I found like a lot of the funny parts weren't as funny while reading, and actually I realized that the audiobook and physical book have just like very different feels. I mean, obviously they're the same story, but just in the method, the format that you receive it in, I find reading this book physically is a lot like creepier almost. It's kind of disturbing because while the story is very fast-paced, it's kind of told in this light-hearted, joking way where everything is just so ridiculous and blown out of proportion. There are some like very violent, horrific things happening. Like the whole premise of it is, as I mentioned, a Hunger Games style sort of a game where our crawlers are sent into this dungeon to basically face like enemies, like NPCs, but also they can kill each other. And then all of this is being televised. It has that like Hunger Games element to it, which is obviously very disturbing, but it's told through like this jokey, lighthearted tone. And I found that while listening, there were definitely a few moments that like, you know, some violent, horrific act would happen and it'd be like, oh, that was kind of dark, like that was kind of heavy, but then it's like, there's like laughing and joking. But then reading the physical book, when you don't get like that jokey line delivery, it does feel heavier and it does feel darker. It's just like, ooh, like it's just creepy. And it's actually like, because I've been playing sort of these RPG type video games lately. I'm actually currently playing Divinity Original Sin. I just finished the first game and now I'm on to the second game, but we kind of have a game system that works in a similar way. When I'm playing a video game, I am the type of person that will be ruthless. You know, I will be like, let's get rid of that guy so we can loot him. And obviously like there's no harm in doing that in a video game because it's pixels. Like you're not even affecting someone else. It's like a computer character. But then seeing like people do that in this like real world dungeon crawler game where they're like offing people to loot them like for their stuff, I'm like, maybe like, do I need to rethink my actions here? Like the way I act while I play video games? Because when you think about the reality of it, it's very disturbing. So there's just like an interesting like combating dynamic there, and I'm finding it's giving this book just a whole other layer with that, like just like the fighting parts to it of like, oh, is this a funny book or is this like a very deeply serious, dark, heavy book? I also have heard that Matt Dinniman doesn't actually plot out his books. While he writes these, he doesn't actually know what's going to happen. He just kind of like takes it moment by moment. And I heard in the past, I don't know if he still does this, but I heard that in the past at least, he had a Patreon and he had people in his Patreon vote for what happened next. So it was like a collective effort of like, ooh, who are they gonna fight next? Are they gonna win? Are they gonna lose? What are they gonna get? Like people could kind of like choose your own adventure, which I think is super, super fun for this kind of game style book. So that sounds like a really fun experience and just like a really fun way to write a book, to be honest. But yeah, I have read a lot of this book. I've listened to a little bit of this book, but I am finding the audio is stronger for this one, which is so funny because you guys know I am primarily a physical book girl. Like I have been dabbling into audiobooks, but like I still read majority physical books, and audiobooks I would say make up like 5 to 10% of my reading. But for the second half, I kind of just want to sit in here and try an immersive read because I still obviously have the audiobook, I have the physical book. I've tried immersive reading in the past where, you know, you listen to the audio and read the words at the same time, and it didn't work for me last time I tried it, but I also think that had to do with the particular audiobook I was listening to. So I feel like I'm gonna have better luck with this one. So yeah, I'm gonna sit here. I have my AirPods here, and I think I'm just gonna like plug in and immersive read and see how it goes. So that's the plan of attack. I'm gonna keep going with this one. Guys, I just finished Dungeon Crawler Carl. The immersive read, I think, is definitely the way to do it because you get the delivery of the lines, but then you also get to read. And I love physically reading. I've been warming up to audiobooks and I've been enjoying them more these days, but like physical reading will beat out any form of reading for me personally. So yeah, I actually really liked the immersive reading experience. I think at the end of this now, I'm gonna rate this book a 3.75. I definitely enjoyed it. There are definitely parts that made me laugh. I will say that the sense of humor did get a little bit too much for me because it's kind of vulgar humor. It's very brain rot humor, I want to describe it as. And I was just telling my husband, it's definitely the type of humor that works better for him. And I think a lot of the parts where I was laughing, I was just kind of like trying to get into his head, and I could picture him laughing at the jokes, and then it kind of made me laugh because I just like, I laugh when other people laugh. You know what I mean? So I'm actually like not sure if the majority of this style of humor is for me personally, but I still like enjoyed reading it. The plot was definitely fun. I think I was describing this as a fast-paced plot, but now getting to the end of it, I think it's not necessarily fast-paced. In fact, I think it's kind of slow moving if you think of the scope of what we have to do in this entire story and then see like what we've accomplished here. I think it is quite slow paced, but it feels fast because there's a lot happening and you do get really kind of like bogged down in the details, like on one hand in a good way because that does suit this genre very much as a lit RPG. It feels very like true to this style of book to get all of those details. You kind of get a turn by turn, like a play by play of everything that's happening. It feels very game like that way. So while that's interesting and while that is like fun to read, I think it does slow down the overall plot. And I will say some of the fights like nearing the middle and the end started to feel a little repetitive for me. But all in all, I think this was really, really fun. There is a great underlying plot that I think we're gonna dive deeper into in the next book, because this one we definitely had to spend a lot of time learning about the mechanics of the game and, you know, all of that. So I think the next book, it seems like we're gonna dive deeper into like kind of this mystery that's happening behind the scenes, and I'm excited to get more into that. And I mean, I'll just read more about Princess Donut. Like, you give me Princess Donut, I'll read it. You guys know I love like a snarky, funny animal sidekick, and we definitely have a very, very strong element of that in this with Princess Donut, and also potentially with another animal sidekick that I cannot tell you about until you read this book because I don't want to spoil anything. So yeah, overall, this was a 3.75 for me. Definitely a solid start to the series, and I'm really, really curious to read on, so I will for sure be continuing this series. Okay, this next book I'm about to pick up though, I don't think you guys are ready. I don't think you guys are ready for me to get into this universe because it's been a long time coming, and I think you guys know what this next book is. I think you know what this next one has to be. I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm gonna pick up Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is part of the Shadowhunter series, the first book in the Infernal Devices series, which I've gotten a lot of advice to start in this one. It's technically, I think, the first chronological book in this universe, but it's like the second series published in this universe, so there's kind of like differing reading orders you could do. But I have heard from a lot of you guys that I will love, 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 love this series in particular. All I know about it is that we're set in Victorian England in this one. I honestly don't even know what the magic system is. I don't know what characters we're following. I don't know what the plot structure is or the overall synopsis, and I don't want to know. I just know that all of you and Freya and so many other people have been screaming at me to start the series. So I'm just gonna dive into this one. I'm assuming the magic system has something to do with shadows because it's the Shadowhunters universe, but like, who knows? I have no idea. I'm gonna dive into it. I'll let you know more about the plot if you need to know about the plot once I get into it and once I know what the plot is about. But yeah, this is like a quintessential YA fantasy series, I would say, and it's a phase in life that I missed out on. So this is the next series that we're gonna dive into. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. I have like really, really high expectations diving into this one, so it better live up. Okay, you guys, I have something to confess to you guys. I have been reading this book without you. I think I have about 100 pages left remaining, so I've read the majority of this book kind of off camera, but you know what? That's a good thing. It's a good thing, okay? When I like don't come back for a reading update and it's been this long, it just means I have been so immersed. I've just kind of been reading this for pure enjoyment. That's what it feels like. From the second I opened this book and read the first page, it's just been like a pure escapism, nostalgic type of a reading feeling, and that is definitely a good thing, but I'm so sorry because I'm supposed to be doing a reading vlog here. So yeah, I've read 360 pages of this at this point, but we'll start from the beginning. So just for a quick synopsis now, because I like actually know what this book is about now. This is a YA fantasy, as I mentioned, but we're set in Victorian England. So our protagonist is Tessa, and at the beginning of the story, she's just lost her aunt. So she has sailed over from America to England to live with her brother and to find him, reunite with him. But when she arrives, her brother actually isn't there to pick her up from like the docks, and from there Tessa gets thrown into this sort of underground secret society, culty type organization, like this whole other world that's filled with like magic and demons. We have like vampires, but the organization that has like gotten their hands on her at this point are not good. They're definitely evil. So Tessa finds that she needs to run away from them, find some safe people to hide out with, find some safe people to live with. And so she comes across this other group called the Shadow Hunters, also kind of like a magical underground group, but the Shadow Hunters are actually the ones trying to like hunt the demons. And so Tessa stays with them, and while she stays with them, starts learning about like this whole magical world, but also at the same time, she's still like, where is my brother? Why did he not pick me up from the docks? What happened to him? Did someone take him? And so we have this like mystery tied in with secret societies. They feel very like culty and just like, ooh, it's a really cool vibe. And that's the funny thing, when I was diving into this, I truly had no idea what this book was about. I didn't know anything about the world. This is one of those universes that like I knew I would want to get into at some point. So every time I've seen someone talk about this series, this world in general, I've just like ignored it, like kind of like turned my ears off, don't want to listen, because I wanted to dive into this with a pure blank state and wanted to make my own opinions on it. So I had no idea like of even the vibe of these books, and I'm finding that Victorian England demon secret society vibe to be so much fun. I expected these to just be like a YA elemental magic type book, which are always like, they're fun for me to read as well, but I thought that this would be like that, but it's just so much like grungier. And yeah, as I mentioned, this is just like pure escapism. It's just, it feels so fun. As someone who loved reading my entire life, as someone who has read a lot of YA fantasy, this just feels so comforting. It's nostalgic. Even though I somehow missed this entire phase in my life, it feels like going home reading this because of the writing style, I think, because of the tropes we're seeing, but it's not in a bad way. I think like with some tropes that are overdone, I get tired of them, but for some reason with a lot of these like YA fantasy classic tropes, I don't get bored of them, because yeah, it's probably a nostalgic feeling. It's probably like these tropes are the tropes that made me fall in love with reading. And so diving into this, I'm just like, it feels like I'm home. Even though like I've never read this world before, it still feels like home. And it even goes all the way to like the secondary characters we're meeting, because there is quite a strong found family element, I would say. And even the found family is like very typical found family. Like even the characters within the found family. We have the kind of caregiver, like very nurturing type character. We have the sort of sassy female friend who seems kind of mean at first, but you know, we're gonna dig deeper into her and you uncover these things about her, and then you start like resonating with like this like sassier character as well. We have the maid type character who has a lot more going on behind the scenes, behind her like gentle exterior. We have our love interest, obviously, who's like very moody and broody. And we have another guy who's like probably the more wholesome guy, but is probably not the guy we're gonna end up with. They're very stereotypical characters that you would expect in a found family like this, but it's done in a way that is making me fall in love with these tropes again. Like I have met these characters in other worlds before, but I still love meeting new iterations of them every single time I go. And that's not to say that I'm calling these books a copycat, because obviously these were written a long time ago. I think a lot of people consider these to be actually like one of the blueprint books of this particular genre genre. So I'm not saying like these are a copycat of anything. I'm just saying this as a compliment, honestly, that these characters, that this environment all feels just so like cozy and nostalgic, but like the story is not actually cozy and nostalgic. It's just my feelings while reading it. As I'm reading, I think the only thing that's bugging me a little, not even bugging me, but like is not the strongest for me is the love part of it, the romance part of it. There is a subplot of romance, and that part is just feeling very YA in a sense that doesn't really hit for me anymore. It feels very like instant love. It feels like the type of love that is just a crush, but it's being magnified into this like huge thing. Like, no, we love each other, but it's like, no, it's just a crush. But in the mind of a YA character, like a crush means everything to you. And so I feel like there are some things in the romance that I'm like, this is feeling just like a little too fast, like a little too fast too soon, but it's too simple. Like we haven't developed it enough. But I think that is sort of just something that comes along with YA fantasy with a romance subplot a lot of the time. And then also the only other thing that I might fault about this, but I'm not really seeing this as a fault, is that Tessa as our protagonist is a very naive type of character. She's not very cultured. She doesn't know too much about a lot of things, and then on top of that she's diving into this like new world, so she can seem quite naive in a lot of situations. But I think that actually works in this sense because we are in this Victorian England era, and so at the time that's just how Tessa has been brought up. That's what society has taught her. So as we go on, I think we're going to see her character grow a lot. I think we've started her character at this point where it's like, yeah, she doesn't know much. Yeah, she's not very cultured. She hasn't traveled the world. She doesn't know things about like other ways of life. But from what I'm seeing, it's set up that way so she can have a lot of character growth as we go on through the story. So I'm excited to see how that progresses. But I mean, I'm just having a lot of fun reading this, and I'm gonna probably finish the last 100 pages super quick because the writing is also just very, very easy to consume. So yeah, I'm gonna finish this book. Okay, yeah, this was just a whole lot of fun. It was just a whole lot of fun. I just finished it. It's just such a comforting read. Like, it's not a cozy fantasy, but it's just so comforting. You know what I mean? I can see the story getting interesting in the next 2 books as well, so I'm definitely excited to continue in the series. I feel like there's just a really fun balance between like a whole bunch of different things going on. Like, we have a little bit of the historical element going on. We have like the missing persons mystery, and then like more mystery that comes from that. We have, as I mentioned, the cult stuff, the secret society stuff, the demon stuff. It's just like a lot of fun. There are also a lot of like bookish references. Tessa as a character really loves reading, so you know, she has her favorite authors. We do reference some classic books and stuff, so I feel like we're also catering towards the book lover a little bit in this. So yeah, there's just like a lot of different ingredients that make this just a really, really fun read, like just a pleasant read. I don't think this like goes too in depth in anything. Like, it's not an adult fantasy by any means. It's not overly complex or anything, but it's just one of those books that reminds you of like why you love reading. You know what I mean? There was one little weird moment though while I was reading. There was a sentence where you was written out as just the you instead of the full word, and I'm like, that's a little bit of a weird mistake to make, but it's also like taking me back to the 2000s because like that's how we all typed in the 2000s, you know? U was just U, R was just like an R. We were so bad at typing in that era, and although that form of typing should definitely not make its way into published novels, that was just, I don't know, funny to see. So maybe the publisher needs to catch that before the next round of printing these books. But yeah, I don't know. This was fun. I'm excited to continue the series. I'm excited to follow our characters more. I think these characters are going to like slowly inch their way into becoming my soul characters. They're not quite there yet. They all have the potential to get there, but I think I just need to spend a little bit more time with them before they ultimately like reach the pinnacles of my heart. The pinnacles of my heart, the core of my heart. I think I'm gonna give this first one a 4-star. I think definitely a solid start. It's just nostalgic YA fantasy. So out of the 3 series that I started this week, hold on, I'm just gonna grab my books. I think we had some success this week. I'm gonna continue 2 out of the 3 series. The Infernal Devices, I'm definitely gonna continue to book 2. I think the second book is Clockwork Prince or Clockwork Princess. it's one of those. It's Clockwork something, but yeah, I'm definitely going to continue this one. I'm also going to continue Dungeon Crawler Carl. I feel like these are just going to be fun reads to like mix up my palette. You know what I mean? Just like fun, silly reads, but also with an interesting plot. I think these will do very well, but I do think like, I don't think I can read another Witcher book. I have been discussing with some of you on Goodreads actually. I have recently been made aware that some of the issues that I found with this book may have been due to the translation. Like a lot of the things I was mentioning with how women were portrayed in this book are actually not written as problematic in the pure Polish version, but in the translation a lot of intent was just changed, skewed, altered with. I don't know, it didn't come across very well in the translation, and that's where a lot of those like issue moments were. So that was something definitely interesting to learn. So it's not really Andrzej Sapkowski's fault, I guess. It was the translator's fault, and that is just such a shame. But I don't think I can read another one of these. Like maybe in 5 years after I cool down, maybe I can give another one a chance, but I don't think so for now. I'm calling this an official DNF for the series. That being said, that wraps it up for this video. I had so much fun reading these different series, trying new authors, and starting into new worlds this week. I'm gonna leave you guys here for now. I hope you enjoyed this one. Again, thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Definitely check them out. Link and code in the description box below. But if you like this one, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know what series you want to start next. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!